Hello, everyone. I am Tom, and I'm here today with esteemed guest Veronique Hyland. And these are your 15 minutes of FUME. I know.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Veronique is an old friend from New York and happens to be in town. And you work in the world. And I just thought you might at home recognize her from our An Evening with the Spirits teaser video.
My alter ego as a Victorian medium.
Yes, literally timeless. And now you, tell the good people who you are and what you were up to.
So I'm an editor at Elle, and I have a book coming out in March called Dress Code, Unlocking Fashion from the New Look to Millennial Pink, which is a book about fashion as it intersects with like late capitalism, politics, gender equality, and just everything that's going on in this moment.
I've been so excited for this book. Just to have a Veronique Hyland book, first of all, because I think that the way that you write and the way that your mind works is fascinating to me. And everything that I read about the description when I pre-ordered the book, which you may do now, and which I strongly encourage because those numbers can be very useful to authors as they prepare to go out and sell their book. Anyway, everything from the description just made me want to find out more because so much of the writing about fashion revolves around tradition, weirdly.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now in a time when tradition seems to mean like everything but also nothing.
Right.
And there really needs to be, I think, like great resources to turn to for updated like ideas and language about fashion that like can help make sense of like what the fuck is actually happening now.
Right, and I mean, I intended it to not be like a fashion insider kind of book. It's very approachable. It's about the way, like, what we wear in our everyday lives matters, what it means, what it signifies, and you know.
I look down and there's like a teriyaki sauce stain like on my shirt.
I didn't want it to be, unapproachable. But what was interesting is like looking at some of this history that I did research for the book, seeing the reaction that people had, for example, to women wearing bloomers in the 19th century, and the reaction that people have now had to women wearing leggings, and that being considered suggestive in certain spheres, and the way that these garments have allowed people freedom, or the way that certain garments have restricted people, has been really interesting to see all those parallels.
You don't write about perfume at all in the book, right?
I don't. I do write a little bit about sort of beauty and how beauty standards and body standards have changed, but I do not really have anything about perfume. I'm sorry.
Maybe in the sequel.
Yeah. And I have already shared with Tom, I don't have the strongest sense of smell.
That's perfect. I got so excited when I heard you say that because while we've had a bunch of people on the show, and Galen and I have kind of wallowed in this series for the last year, smelling everything, but like also I just know that the world out there of scent lovers is made up of all different kinds of people, all different kinds of noses, strong preferences, very relaxed preferences, and it's been very interesting for me to see how different it can be. Part of what I love about vending live events and what I miss about them is watching the reactions to people smelling things. Even if the reactions are like, low grade insulting, I still find that very amusing. It helps that I did not personally blend the fragrances, so I don't have like
right.
that level of artistic commitment, but it's just interesting to me to see. And so I thought it would be fun as a result of you telling me this to sniff the Duets from our recently released Lunacy perfumes.
And I will say Burial is one of my favorites. That was like my signature scent for a while. And I discovered it at Meet the Lady, which was a show that Tom used to do that I was once in and often attended as well. And I think it was a piece of swag. But I got so many questions about that scent. And then when I would tell people it was called Burial, they were fascinated because just the concepts that you come up with and everything are so...
Those were the days when I was just like sponsored by BPAL. I was producing this show, and I had reached out about sponsorship, and they would send us like little gifties to give out to the crowd, and it was really interesting because I had never been to a show that had perfume samples given away.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I'm like, wow, that's a real draw. Occasionally, audiences seem to agree. Sometimes I don't really know. Just as now with this series, the Meet the Lady series was all about me having a weird idea and trying to find out if anyone else would tolerate it. And with very mixed results. So the ones today are going to be very simple to smell because they are just 2 notes that are harmoniously paired together. And you may, we usually do a little smell in the bottle, and then if you want to, you may put it on the skin and see if that changes, but you are not obligated to.
Okay.
This is the Marshmallow and Plum Duet. The plum is black. For your scent fantasy, that might be very important.
I'm definitely getting the plum in here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very sort of sweet, kind of heady scent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I can smell the marshmallow as much, but I also don't really know what a marshmallow is supposed to smell like. So that may be the challenge.
From smelling B-Pal, I know how the marshmallow tends to behave. And I know that... Oh,
I'm just doing a tiny, tiny bit.
I was going to say, do you need like a life preserver? Because there's no wand cap, so it makes it hard to try on. I'll give you the cap from now on so that you can do a little dab and make it easier.
Okay.
So the marshmallow definitely is kind of like a billowing background situation, and since it's pure oil, the plum is going to be like really strong, especially in the bottle. And if it was just the plum without the marshmallow, it would be a different creature for sure.
Yeah, I guess the sort of like sugariness I smell is the marshmallow presence.
There's a weird kind of contrast in this where there's like a really bright sugary presence from the marshmallow that makes like and then there's like the black plum has this kind of bitter tanginess to it.
Yeah.
And those two things kind of exist simultaneously in the perfume but remain separate.
It does also feel like it has a very Christmassy feel to it. I don't know if that's intentional.
Well, I think you're right, and actually we just released a Sugar Plum series for the Yule collection. However, the scientist in me, which should get a laugh from the audience, would say that there's no way to tell for sure if that is a correct feeling because you happen to be smelling it around Christmas.
Right, that's true.
So
we have bringing my own baggage.
We need a control group.
People who've never heard of Christmas.
Yes. The trick is how do you solicit input from people like that without introducing the idea of Christmas to them?
Yes.
You know, because once they know about it, it's done. So, interesting, there's like almost a kind of a saltiness that I'm getting. I don't know, the sweetness is kind of burning off really quickly, which I notice happens with some sugary blends, especially with the fruit. There is like a really weird, heady, like old-fashioned kind of thing about it. I lost all of my articulate words. I didn't even have an edible. Well, I'm going to let that simmer for a minute, and we'll come back and see how she feels. This one, okay, Rose Petals and Palo Santo. Those are 2 things that you may have smelled in real life, so that you can actually figure out your...
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a very kind of 90s throwback, sort of Sarah McLachlan, Felicity kind of vibe.
Yes. Wow.
Very specific.
That's really funny.
Lilith Fair, kind of part of the 90s.
Yes. Some of us never left that part of the 90s. It's so funny, I don't even think about things through that lens, and if I just went through like a lot of my personal aesthetic things, and I'd be like, okay, but like find the continuity to the 90s, and it's probably there.
Right. Well, I think there's like a micro trend of people sort of dressing like they're a specific subset of like a single mom in the 90s who's listening to like Lorena McKennitt and finding herself, and there's like Celtic elements to it, but this seems to be like a micro trend that I have seen. So you're getting on that bandwagon as well.
In the bottle, so it's funny to go from something that's like a sugared up fruit scent to something like this, because this is like kind of dry and crackling, and there may be actually overlap with Burial that you'd mentioned, which is one of our general catalog scents, because you've got this like the sharpness of the Palo Santo is right there, and it also adds a kind of like a weird like a green quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the rose petals are there doing their like rose thing, but it's a kind of like a high pitched, like freaked out rose thing instead of like some of the other ones that we've done recently, like the winter ones, are these like lush red, like, you know, damp rose. And this seems like it has almost like a weird dry crackle to it. I promised you the cap, and then I did. Muscle memory took over, and you may.
Okay, I'm gonna put it on. Do you have like a synesthesia around smells? Because you've used a lot of visual and sound metaphors already.
I never really thought that I did. I think I just like talking.
Okay.
And no one can challenge your authority when you're describing just like an experience that you alone are having. So convenient at
I mean,
times.
it's also challenging to describe them using any other language, I guess.
Part of it is trying to reach out to whoever might be listening too, and I'm like, how can I connect with you? What can I give you? And sometimes it gets very silly, and we actually have it's clear we have no idea what we're talking about. But everyone knows that I didn't make the perfumes, so you know, that's where my authority really ends. I have to say, on the skin, this is a softer rose than I was expecting, and it has a kind of a lovely, dry, almost smoky situation. Yeah. But it's like actually a little more gentle, and on the skin I'm getting much more Lilith Fair even.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Same here. And I'm smelling the rose scent more on the skin than I did in the bottle for whatever reason.
This is taking me back to the lesbian-owned independent bookstore in my in the college town near where I lived, circa 90s.
Yeah.
Big
that
time.
Definitely feels accurate.
That's like a happy heart place for me. Okay, so this is going to be, patchouli and Canadian balsam. I don't know the difference between what various balsams of different nationalities have to offer.
Okay, so like a fir tree.
Yeah. Wow, it just kind of like poked me like right in the nose when I smelled it. Nice, sharp patchouli.
Yeah, it almost has like a menthol kind of scent to it.
You're new here, but I'm the one who made the noob mistake of touching the bottle to my nose, guaranteeing that I will be smelling patchouli for the rest of my life. This is just like a really nice, rich, earthy patchouli. Faint sweetness from the balsam, I can tell, which helps keep it from being like too scratchy, and sometimes the patchouli can be that really intense like bug spray smell. You know? It reminds me, for some reason, the mental synesthesia that I'm getting is the camping trip in Parent Trap.
Oh.
You know?
The original or remake?
Definitely the original.
Yeah. Something
about those, like, dry, high-altitude Californian forests. I don't know. I know it says Canadian, but CA could also mean California. A CA web address always throws me.
Also a movie with a doom cake prominently featured.
Very much so.
Bringing it back to Tom's other opus.
I don't know if people know. People here in the BPAL verse don't necessarily know about my background, but like I did have a tour with a lecture, a very paranoid academic lecture about the prominence of the destruction of cakes in film.
And it was like a very PowerPoint-esque kind of presentation, which to me made it so funny because you were sort of like, okay, we have to keep it moving, but the theory you were discussing was so convoluted, and you know, just...
I had a great I got invited to a literary agent meeting on the basis of some of the work that I had done, because he had reached out and was like, do you have any literary aspirations? And when someone asks you that question, you always say yes, even if you have no idea what you're going to bring. But he described the tone of that as like a paranoid academic, and I've already stuck with that in the past because I'm like, I'm not an academic, which is part of what makes it funny. Yeah. And then also just like the taking something very seriously, because the slides that I made for it were like bananas. And then you got to watch like a video clip that included, you know, Natalie Portman being fed cake off her mother's finger in Black Swan, and then James Bond jumping onto a boat from a bridge and landing on a wedding cake. Look at like the power of fragrance to like bring all of this screaming back from the past. Okay, I don't know how in the world we're gonna talk about oud. Do you know about oud?
I've heard the word, but I don't know what it means.
Right. Maybe the less you know, the better. Let's start there.
Okay. I know what cacao is.
Right.
Oh.
You're watching someone have a first time oud experience.
Yeah.
We should be charging for this shit, but it's free on the internet.
What is that? I mean, is that like...
So,
is it used in like Catholic rituals?
I'm not Catholic enough to know,
back.
actually.
Okay.
It's not used
I should be, but I don't remember.
It's not used in Protestant rituals that I know. So oud is an agar wood, and there are different types of it that have a really there's a range of different. It's not specified here which kind, but some of it has like a really intense like indolic or animalic scent that can be like people say is like a barnyard smell, or just like literally like smells like shit.
Okay.
Other times it's like more woodsy, or there's like all these different tones to it possibly. And here it is kind of hanging out in a mellow, kind of like woody territory.
Yeah.
I would almost, if you had blindfolded me, I would have maybe said that this was like a cacao and sandalwood. So I think the oud is a pretty mild one.
I'm glad there's no blindfolding element to this, because I would really whiff it.
That would be, I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, but if ratings go down, everyone better watch out. Like, comment, subscribe, or else.
I should say that my perfume experience, like, to give you a sense of what a novice I am, I'm still wearing the dregs of the Mary-Kate and Ashley double set, which was the New York and LA to represent their bi-coastal lifestyles.
Oh my gosh.
This is very much pre the row. And I still have some of the New York, but that's a little bit more sophisticated, but the LA is like someone drank a lot of Captain Morgan and passed out in like a fragrant jacaranda. It has kind of a floral but also a rum note. And I did give these to a friend who was a chemist, and he said, I can't really smell anything over the perfume solvent. So I don't know if it's the most sophisticated thing to be wearing, but...
I love it. I mean, the idea of just wearing straight perfume solvent is so punk, like Cyberpunk 2022, right? Like, there's really something to that. Now that this is tempering down, I can smell, I don't know if you want, did you put any on?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Don't want to make you smell me.
It's actually overwhelmed all the other scents on my hand. It's very strong. Maybe it's just the
cacao has kind of gentled down a little bit. It's not so like foodie gourmand. It really is kind of like a weird kind of like polished wood. Maybe like in a haunted candy, like a haunted chocolate factory that no one's been in for a long time situation.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel too like dessert Jessica Simpson food. You know, like, it's definitely a very sophisticated.
No, there's like the oud is kind of nice and smoky and woody and...
I'm referencing all the great perfumers, as you can see, of the aughts.
I'm just excited to know more. I want to know more about this Mary-Kate and Ashley one. And someone's going to be able to leave us a note in the comments about which BPAL perfume would smell like the rum and jacaranda.
I believe they're also worth a lot now on eBay, but I haven't looked into it.
Damn, that's the trick about falling for vintage perfumes, let me tell you. This is a white grapefruit and black tea. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I like this.
Some corpse reviver here. After like these mellow, kind of like the patchouli, balsam, cacao, oud, and then this is just like very bright and shiny and raising its hand. Okay.
But I can definitely, the tea under the citrus, this is a nice combination.
Yeah. Yeah, right off the bat, I was pretty sure the grapefruit was going to stomp everything into submission, but that tea is holding its own. And there's both of those notes have kind of a bitter edge in their own way.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to kind of like see them meeting, like blurring together in that zone. Mm-hmm. Are you a grapefruit eater?
I'm a grapefruit juice drinker.
Okay.
If I'm in a buffet situation and someone else is paying.
It's just like a very specific occasion for that particular beverage. I like to peel a grapefruit and eat it, but not like the white grapefruit. I always go for like the reddest possible grapefruit because I don't know. There's something very like ascetic about the white grapefruit where it's just like you can't have any fun here. When Ruby Red Squirt happened, that opened my eyes to like what a grapefruit could be, and I've been chasing that high ever since.
Yeah, I guess the white grapefruit is too sort of like modernist, like you know, Frank Gehry designs a grapefruit.
Right, and that's actually funny that you say that because the scent has this like really interesting stark minimalism. It's not medicinal because there is a kind of like a like easygoing like comfortable familiarity to it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like one of those homes where you have to take off your shoes immediately, and you can hear your change like in your pockets because it's just like very quiet. Just like I guess it reminds me a little bit of our embalming fluid, which is that a tea and citrus also? I'm saying to Galen off camera. People are gonna think like, who is he talking to? Galen's here.
Are you talking to a ring light?
I'm just talking to the ring light. I mean, you know, this deep into the pandemic, it could come to that. I've gotten to know these ring lights. One of them actually has the name Brenda written all over it in gold Sharpie because that one broke, and I didn't want to write broken on it, so I just wrote Brenda. And now we just talk about Brenda. So that's a little bit of 15 minutes of fume lore for everyone paying attention.
The combination of the two, I feel like I'm on like the Merv Griffin show or something. It's
very,
like...
when you were here to record your Victorian spiritualist spot, we were using very crude lighting. We did not have it figured out. That was kind of
pre-ring light becoming a thing also.
It was the first major purchase when lockdown happened. I was afraid that they would sell out of them, and I ordered a ring light immediately, which is
very smart.
Very weird, like, dark revelation also about the world that we're working in.
Influencer, yeah.
I know. I'm like, oh god. Even when I did it, I was like, watch out. Okay, well, this is lovely. Bright, fresh, clean. We're going to move on to, oh my gosh, well, I'm going to hit you with another barrel, which is white sage and lime. I'm going to have to put this on a separate arm because I don't even want to, like, risk confusing them. Okay. Wow.
Well, I don't know what white sage smells like, so I can't say for sure if that's there, but the lime is definitely there.
Yes, and as one who does know, I will say that it is there. And they are really weirdly married together because sage I wouldn't describe it as like super acidic.
Yeah.
But it does have a kind of like a crisp green, dry scent.
Like an herbal. I can smell it more on my hand actually. So.
Yeah. Oh dang. This is really nice. This will keep you awake. This is like, I mean, don't drink it. It's like, but this is like maybe, you know, it doesn't smell like Monster Energy drink, but it might be like the
perfume equivalent.
Wow, I bet it would layer really well with the grapefruit and tea.
To create a quartet.
Yes, there's like no sweetness, no sentimentality.
Yeah.
Just like very spare. It's like maybe same minimalist environment, but the ceiling's even higher. You know. Okay, the last one. This should be like a nice aftercare. After going through like the stringent, you know, hitting you with the citruses and herbs, coconut and frankincense. How well versed are you in frankincense?
So I know it from just the frankincense and myrrh and the other one, yeah. But beyond that,
all right. Well,
I do have a background of I've been in many Christmas pageants, so I've probably said the word frankincense.
It's like your whole life is built up to this moment. All right. Well,
and
you know what coconut is, so whatever you smell that's not coconut is probably the frankincense.
Process of elimination.
That's why the duets I figured would be really easy and helpful. I'm just going all the way up my arm. Eventually, I'm just going to be putting it on the side of my face.
Yeah. Playing the Virgin Mary with a Joseph who doesn't want to talk to girls. A real challenge for the actor.
The great thing about that character is you could actually in real life be a Joseph who doesn't want to talk to girls and still get a son out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like how convenient. We need to a version of this story where Joseph is like the closeted homosexual partner freaking out about like how he's going to like live this life, and then God just like throws him a bone and is just like, don't worry about it. You're gonna be a footnote in this story. You don't have to touch anyone. Okay, so, wow, it's actually, I don't know if I would have picked that out as frankincense if I was just smelling this, because the coconut has its own kind of weird, it's like a kind of a fleshy, lightly sweet.
Yeah.
Coconut, it's like the coconut meat.
Yes, I was just going to say the same thing, I swear.
I believe you.
Because often coconut can get a little too, like, you know, sort of, tanning oil, kind of Jimmy Buffett.
And then you fall into the jacarandas.
Yes. This is probably, I would say, the closest to the Mary-Kate and Ashley LA scent, but much more sophisticated.
Only out of these, like, 7.
Yes, sorry. If you're looking to replicate that, you may need to go elsewhere, but...
What I like about this is there's like a nice kind of like spicy incense kind of like in the background that I know is kind of giving it a little bit of actual austerity and like character that isn't, you know, like a fully tropical experience. I like coconut as a scent note, but this definitely would not be mistaken for like a suntan oil smell.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, I don't really know anything about layering fragrances, and I would not know how to do it, but I guess this sort of solves the problem for you, because you have your pairing, and you know that it's going to be, you know, esoteric yet tasteful.
One way that you could do that right now is just rub all the spots together that you did, and then it's like, wow, I layered. But like, truly an exercise in madness, because of, oh my gosh, I really, first of all, I trampled right over that marshmallow and plum. I had hoped to return to it, and I just wiped stuff into it. The Petri dish is polluted. Yeah. Are we having some neighbor noise? That sounds cheerful enough. From the marshmallow and plum, though, it is actually weirdly nice and cozy now that the bombast of the fruit has died down. And I'm just like, okay, this is kind of like actually snuggly. Mm-hmm. Whereas before I felt like it was maybe too intense, like, to really snuggle down with. Like, it would have been like a statement perfume that you would have worn to intimidate people into loving you. I love it too. Now it's more like I would just be comfortable with this by myself, and I don't care if anybody loves me. So, which I think is like the magic of fragrance. So, anything that stands out that you're just like, okay, like.
Well, I've learned about a lot of ingredients and scents that I previously only knew as words, and now I'm attaching scent memories to them, however faint, because of my challenges in that area. But yeah, I mean, I really genuinely like them all. I think I was into the sort of throwback appeal of the patchouli the most, but. Yeah, I mean, it just took me back. I don't feel like we're having like conversations about incense enough right now. Like, that has kind of like fallen out of the conversation. But I'm very nostalgic for that kind of like weird '90s store with like, you know, handmade cloth bags and some incense and some patchouli and.
It's truly like a lot of these scents from this run of duets fit in that vibe, because now I keep drifting to my arm and I'm smelling the cacao and oud, and even that has like an element of that. There's like a kind of a nice funk to it from the oud that keeps it in the kind of like a, it's not stonery, but it's like it's got a kind of a hippie quality.
Yeah.
And then that white grapefruit and tea that I'm smelling here is just like incredible. It's just like ravishing, and I don't know what to do with myself. I didn't expect it. It really calmed down. It was really kind of lively at first, and now it's wearing it a really wonderful. And it's a good time to wear grapefruit, because I know grapefruit oil is photosensitive on the skin.
Oh.
They say not to wear it. We don't release a lot. I don't. It you know, you can get burns from it.
Oh, I did
wearing
not know
it in
that.
the sun. Yeah, that's why you don't see it in lots of skincare stuff. But it's winter, bitches.
Yeah.
So you can be a grapefruit if you want to.
Unless you're trying to play a Victorian medium and need to stay extremely pale.
Right. She can wear as much grapefruit as she wants. She's not going out in the daytime. When does your book come out?
March 15th.
That is so soon.
Is
it scary?
A little bit. Well, it's just very, you know, I've never done this before, so I'm slowly finding my way around the promotional circuit.
I like being like
this being my first stop.
Right. This is like a very humble, like, you know, millimeter high step on the great staircase to promoting something. So, but I hope that people will check it out, because I'm excited about it, and it is going to be a real book that you can read. And, you know, if you wrote one, I'd read it. So I say dangerously to everyone. Well, thank you so much, Veronique. And
yeah, thank you for having
me. Obviously, you may, if you want to take any of these, you may, but no pressure. We just used to.
I think they're TSA compliant.
You can get through. Just screw that lid on real tight, so you don't have like a disaster on the other side. But we used to have so many more guests, and we'd be able to just offload perfume onto people as they pass through, and that doesn't happen anymore. So please help.
I will, yeah.
All right, well, that's it, everyone. We're going to get back into talking about Yules as we get to grab and sniff them, and it's going to be a good time during a very dark phase of the year. So the Victorian series, the Victorian mediumship series rides again. You will be seeing Veronique very soon.
Yes. And for anyone watching, I am offer only. So...
That's how it goes. You
also
know?
Can play a colonial woman. Corpse of a colonial woman. All things I've
corpse of a
gone out
Victorian
for.
medium.
Yeah,
it's great. It's really important, I think, as a performer to know how to sell yourself. Like anyone who might be inspired by the side of you, like like you can entertain offers, but like also to just know it's like this is what I bring to the table.
Well, my favorite piece of feedback, which was from someone we know, but I will protect their privacy, but who was doing some casting and was looking, I wanted to play this sort of villainous role, and he said, you don't look like someone who does things, you look like someone who things happen to, which is a very dark thing to contemplate about yourself, but also did help me sort of narrow down some roles.
I really think it's interesting when people give feedback and you never know what the shelf life is and that feedback is going to be, and it's like, did someone even listen? Or are they going to be hearing this in their brain about themselves for literally decades?
The other one was, I would get a lot of like, you should, have you thought about writing your own projects? And I was in such a sort of early 20s glow of just everything's a compliment that I thought, oh, they somehow know I'm also a great writer in addition to being a great actor. And I now realize that was sort of a gentle way of being like, you won't really work in mainstream stuff unless you write your own material for your own weird interests.
Yeah,
so.
I long ago figured out that there are people in the great world of art and fashion and like just the gate-kept media. There are the people who ride in through the drawbridge, which is lowered for them, and then there are those who are part of the orc army who have to throw grappling hooks up and like physically hoist themselves up over the wall. And as someone who will always be one of the orcs, I think it's really just important to know that about yourself and always be looking for a good grappling hook or a strong rope or a crevice high up on the wall that no one seems to have caught yet.
Yeah,
so
look out for boiling oil.
Right. Oh my gosh, boiling oil. So, all right, well, that's enough for today. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We will talk again soon. Ta-da.